Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women in Lighting Global Gathering 2022. I'm Katia Kolovea, team member of the Women in Lighting, and very, very excited to be here with you today, celebrating not only the International Women's Day, but also the third year anniversary of the project. I'm also delighted to be hosting the Global Work interview sessions. And on this one, we have with us the writer, researcher, and advocate of dark skies, Jane Slade, founder of Anatomy of Night. Hello, Jane. Welcome.
Hi, Katia. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
We are so excited to have you. Thank you very much. So, we have prepared for you a few questions to talk about your project, Starving for Darkness. So, I think we can dive into straight away, right? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Jane Slade, and I am a writer and researcher on the topic of darkness. And I really am hoping to bring back the night to the planet for all living things.
Fantastic. Yeah. So that takes us to the second question, which is about your project. So could you please explain more about the Starving for Darkness project, but also the Anatomy of Night?
Sure. Anatomy of Night, the goal of Anatomy of Night is to embrace the night for all living things. Starving for Darkness is a particular project really to get the stars back. So, through advocacy, writing, and research, and helping to remind people that night is 50% of the planetary experience, and that before 150 years ago, humans had a practice of nightly reflection every single night. And for all living things, the impacts of light pollution are ghastly. It changes pollination, it changes the way plants grow, it impacts migration. And that's just a short version of a very long list. And so, really, night is needed for the health and well being of all living things. So, the goal of Starving for Darkness is to get the stars back. And the goal of Anatomy of Night is to bring back and embrace the nighttime for humans.
Fantastic. Yeah, really great. So what made you start it? Was it something that really triggered you specifically on a moment during your career that you said, okay, I'm gonna start investigating and talking about this topic?
Yeah, when I first got into the lighting industry, I was very interested in the topic of light and health. And that ended up turning into a hunch about the fact that there's light everywhere. And so I began asking myself about the importance of darkness. And right at that time, I was asked to give a keynote speech for a sustainability dinner here in Boston. And I was looking at darkness and light and the impacts upon humans. And so when I got done writing that talk, I ended up entitling it Starving for Darkness. And at the time, those words, I really liked them. But what I did not realize was that that became a framework and a lens in which to see the world. It has changed me. It changed me and the way that I think, and it changed the trajectory of my life and career. And that is all to say that I believe that everyone should honor their hunches and wonderings and lean into them because there is often a curiosity that's leading you to a place that is new ground to uncover.
Yeah, that's great, really. Thank you, Jane. I mean, we're very lucky actually that you started this because it's really inspiring and can have a great impact globally. So,
Thank
um,
you.
I think, okay, so the next question is where would you like to see the project in the future? And I know that you have some very nice slides to show us. So maybe you can, while we are, while you're telling us how do you see this in the future, where should it go and how should it transform with the global community? Please do share with us a few pictures of your research.
Sure. So, this is part of the presentation that I give to a lot of architects, designers, engineers, landscape architects. And I go through light pollution, what are the impacts upon living things, on specific species, because right now we only mention very few species, such as sea turtles. And that boggles my mind because every single species is impacted by light pollution, yet we focus on the one. It's not a topic that has a lot of great information that's being discussed. So I really try to expand to all living things. And then I talk about interventions and best practices. But this is where we are. This is the light pollution spilling out into the world, into the space. And the thing is that we at once used to talk about the energy efficiency and then the loss of the electricity that wasn't really being used properly. But what we didn't realize is that we unknowingly created an entirely different environmental disaster of light pollution. So, this is the United States where I live. I live in Boston. And so, I really am hoping that we can start capturing all of this extra light and then removing it through lighting controls, gain back the stars, gain back the night for all living things, and also for humans, take that moment of rest and recovery and reflection.
Yeah, that's exactly talking about, things that people can do. There are actually many, many things. And I particularly would like to highlight what you just mentioned about it's not a topic that is highly not understandable, but, the majority of the general public is not really align with it, and they are like, okay, why should I care? Really, they don't really understand the impact and the and how big this issue is. So yeah, I really really like what you're saying, and how do we draw attention, like what you're saying here on this slide.
Yeah, and light pollution is not well named. It sounds like a nuisance, but it's actually a ghastly aspect of climate change. When we talk about the term light pollution, if you compare that to, say, air pollution or water pollution, those are named for the thing that's being polluted. Light pollution, light is the thing that's polluting. And as diurnal species, we don't hate light. We love light. We make it in metaphors. We actually put it on a pedestal, but it needs to be done in balance. And when we can look back through the lens of balance, darkness becomes beautiful again. And so I have this quote here, which is that if light draws our awareness outside of our bodies, then darkness draws our awareness within. And there's a moment of reflection that happens in darkness that is very, very important for humans.
This is very strong. I mean, I feel it, Thank you very much for sharing and for highlighting that. So, do you have any thoughts and ideas about it, like how this can be built up? Like you said that you are giving this talk to researchers and architects and other designers. So, how do you see this growing, and what is also the interaction that you are receiving from all the communities that you are sharing this presentation and this topic?
Absolutely. So I have a project that I'm starting on the winter solstice where I want communities to engage with municipalities to turn the lights out from 7 to 10 p.m. so that people can actually see the stars themselves and then feel what they are missing right then and there, because the stars actually provide a feeling of awe that I hear from people over and over again when they look out at a star filled sky. There's a feeling of existentialism. There's a feeling of understanding. There's also a feeling of all the things you don't know. And that is so important for humans. So the goal really is to create awareness. This is lightpollutionmap.info. I would encourage anyone to actually look at the light pollution that's happening in their corner of the world. It's likely more than you think it is.
Yeah.
And then when we engage communities, these are the best practices. We don't have time to really go through them here and now, but controls more than any other technological tool are going to be the solution, because there's no more conservation than when a light is off. So I really believe that the natural daylight cycle is the Rosetta Stone of sustainable lighting, not only with color, but with light levels. And if we can mimic that as much as possible, we can then basically minimize the impacts of lighting for human activity while also reducing impacts on wildlife. So awareness really is the biggest barrier. So I actually ask that anyone listening to this presentation, please tell one other person about light pollution and that they may be underestimating its impact on the the effect of light pollution on their own life as well as the lives of creatures all around them. And so really LEDs are the curse, but they could be the cure. So if we start actually implementing these tools properly, we'll be able to actually do a much better job with our lighting. There's a lot of low hanging fruit we can attack first.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so my call to action is to turn lights out from midnight to 6 a.m. and as well as point out that at any given time, actually, the lights could go out right now and light pollution would go away. And so we can actually get the stars back. It's within us to do it. It's just about building awareness.
Yeah.
This is the project
Absolutely.
I was talking about, which is Dark Sky Night. So this is a self-organized project where we ask communities to engage themselves to have communications with their municipalities to turn lights out so that we can feel the stars right then and there. And I really believe that if we can get the stars back, that would galvanize all other aspects of climate change because of the reflection that comes with it.
Wow. I mean, Jane, I'm speechless, honestly, because, this topic is really, really important for personally as well. So I'm really, really excited for this discussion today. And I'm sure that it's going to give a lot of questions and call to action and also, engagement with all the audience and the participants who are watching this interview today. And also when we are going to have it available for everyone to watch. So I think we already have here the website, your website, anatomyofnight.com, right? And here there are
Mhm.
all the contact information for you, Jane, so everyone can find you online. I highly recommend to every single one of you to follow Jane on Instagram. I'm a big fan of everything that you are sharing there and the awareness that you're building. So, yeah, with that being said, I would like, on behalf of the Women in Lighting team, to really congratulate you for everything you do. And thank you very much for being part of the global gathering this year.
Thank you so much, Katia. And I'll just point out that the Anatomy of Night Instagram, the goal is to get the information outside of the lighting industry. So it speaks from a more poetic kind of place about the common sense of darkness. So I would love to have more people join that community. And just thank you so much to you, Katia, for being a great host and for leading the way with leading the work of women in the field of lighting. I really, really appreciate you amplifying this work. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And make sure that you share your comments and your questions on the chat. Jane is going to be able to answer your questions as well. But also, you can take these conversations from online to offline and have more discussions about light pollution and what we can do about it. So, thank you very, very much for joining us today.